So here we are, we're out cutting barley today, and we got going a couple days ago on that. We did have on this too, on most of this land that I'm going to show you here, there was 20+% hail damage. I think this field, at least in the spot I'm in here, was probably closer to 30. This field, without any fertilizer, on 6 inches of rain, with compost extract, following mustard with barley, is averaging right around 30 bushels. So if you figured the yield loss from the hail damage, which I'll kind of show you on the heads how that looks here in a second, we'd actually probably would average 35 to 40-ish on this field with no fertilizer on 6 inches of rain. So I would call that a victory. I think we're really happy with how that part turned out. We got a lot of stubble growth. The crop was stressed kind of early because of the drought, and so it obviously didn't stool like it normally would have. And it just ran out of steam at the end, right? I mean, we can only do so much on 6 inches of rain, but for the low inputs that we have in this definitely be a good cash flow situation. When we get across the road, I'll show you where we did barley on barley and why that didn't work as well. So if you're going to go a high carbon crop and then follow a high carbon crop and try to just depend on that extract, I think, supplying all your nitrogen as you're getting this program going, I just don't think that it's going to be able to quite do it, especially with the little bit of moisture that we get. So what we learned there is, and I could see early on there was some nitrogen stress in there, that we should have just gone out and probably put on even 5 gallons of 28 would have made a substantial difference, I think, in there. That's how we learn this stuff, right? If we don't push it to the point that something kind of falters, then we'll never know. But I'll show you what happened there versus where we're at here. I'm going to flip the camera around now so you can see the height of the stubble here. So there's all the Mahindra rocks here. I'll get down a little lower so you can see, but we got really good stubble height here. I mean, we got a couple feet of stubble. We're able to strip this really well with that shell-borne header, which they're out there right now doing. And the heads filled really good on here. It seems to be really plump barley. I think the quality is totally fine here, but there was a fair amount of hail damage, and what hail damage looks like on barley is these missing kernels, right? They get knocked out of the head. So this one's not too bad. This one's missing quite a few more. You can see how this one was pretty much stripped off on the back. So as far as a crop goes, this really turned out all right without very many inputs on it. Now I'm going to take you across the road and show you where it didn't turn out as well, explain why, just like I did here, that we should have probably supplemented that with some nitrogen, and we didn't. And that's just a learning thing. We'll know now, I think, in this system, if you see nitrogen stress early on in these cereals, we probably should just go fix it. This field that I'm in here didn't show that. This is on mustard, or a low carbon crop. The barley on barley stuff, it did show that, and we kind of were hoping that it would cycle out of it. Plus we were in such a bad drought that putting any fertilizer on at that point seemed kind of like a waste, right? Because we literally had, I think, something like an inch of rain by the 1st of June at the most. And so things were looking pretty dire then. We did catch some really good showers in June that kind of caught us up. But it's a lesson learned, and I'll take you across the road and show you that. So here I am on the other side of the road, and over here, this was actually barley on barley. So that's a high carbon crop on another high carbon crop. When you have that, you oftentimes will get a fair amount of nitrogen tie up in the stubble because it doesn't break down as quickly as like that mustard stubble did across the road that barley was on, or the flax that was across the road from that. So in a crop like this, we had a lot of nitrogen stress early. I was hoping that the extract would fix that problem by cycling, but with very little moisture and how cold it is in the spring, I think we've just kind of learned if we're going to do cereals on cereals especially, we could have came out here when we saw it was slow and fixed it with 5 gallons of UAN with some humic acid, and probably gave them this a lot more growth and probably gained 10 bushels or more of barley on here. Looking at this as I flip this around, I would guess we're probably looking over here. This also had hail damage, of course, but we're probably at 20-25 bushel barley in here. It did actually kind of come on at the end. We put some Coron and some fulvic acid on there to try and fix it. But had we gone out early with 5 gallons of UAN, that would have cost us about 15 bucks. We probably could have maybe gained another 10 bushels on this with the rainfall that we had. But that's how we learn lessons, right? If we don't push this to the point that something like this happens, how are we going to figure out just how far we can cut stuff? So that's what we learned here on the barley stuff. Really pretty decent for no fertilizer all in all. Just the barley on barley stuff is where we had a little issue. And next year we'll just kind of know if we're going to do cereal on cereal. That next crop, we probably should give it a little better head start. So thanks, guys. We'll take you to the next crop as we do this, and we'll guide you through these videos. We'll be on to winter wheat next, I think, and we'll kind of show you what we learned there.